All right, looks like we are live, Coach. We have a really good special guest with us today. Um, this guy has many hats, as you may know.
Right.
He has drilled on the truck for the PWBA back in the day. He is married to Chris McCune, now Chris McCune Hall. She once was on the tour as well, back in that time frame, I would imagine. He's had a pro shop of his own, which I believe has been at both Don Carter and Cherry Bowl at one point. He is still assisting, I think, with the Hononegah High School team, as far as I understand. Helped with that, going along with the boys' high school team. He has a championship now under his belt from RVC, the Rock Valley College team, boys and girls bowling. The boys got themselves a championship here not too long ago. And he runs a couple of centers, so that's quite a bit of stuff. The Cherry Bowl and Forest Hill.
Yeah, he manager, proprietor, coach, snack bar, lane man, cleaner, porter, sweep the parking lot. He does everything. I'm telling you, this guy's pretty amazing that he can keep up with everything. It makes me tired just thinking about it. But yeah, he's a great guy. You're going to enjoy Tony today.
Yeah, I think he sleeps like 2 minutes a day or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But without further ado, we will add our wonderful guest on here. And hello, Mr. Tony Hall.
Hi there. You guys make me tired just thinking about all
that. You should be.
Man, I'm surprised you're not. The man that's got like 17 hats on at all times.
Definitely some days are different than others.
That's all right.
Cool. Well, I'll lead off here a little bit, AJ. We always welcome everybody to our show. And Tony, we're going to give you some questions here like we always do. And I always like to start off, of course, most all of us are lifetimers in bowling. And how did you get started in bowling, Tony?
My first memory of bowling is going bowling with my family at Viking Lanes in South Beloit, which is where Hononegah bowls. And the first time I went, I just remember everybody was saying, wow, you're like a natural. You actually look like you should be doing this. So very shortly after, I had a friend who was bowling in junior leagues, and I signed up with them I was 13 years old. It's not like today where they're starting so young. And I started bowling at 13. I just still remember my average was 95 my first year, and I wanted to get to 100, of course, like any kid. And the next year I got to 125. The next year I got to 155, and then the next year I was averaging 200 and starting to throw 300s. So, now you think back to that, 16, 17. Look what these kids are accomplishing now at that age. And back then what I was doing seemed like, wow, how do you do this so fast and so young?
Yeah.
Now it's nothing.
Wow. Well, that's almost back in the days of AJBC with all the patches and the chevrons we used to wear on our shirts. I don't know if you remember that. You're old enough for that.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Rockford's a very competitive town for junior bowling. Back in those days, was there a lot of competitive kids? I know that you've got a history of super players that's come out of Rockford. I know you're a very good player. Any other great legends in Rockford in your day?
Sean Harper. Dan Heimer, Matt Hedich. God, you're really making me think here. Those are the ones that stand out from the youth days. As far as bowling, it's funny, I only bowled a few youth King of the Hills. It's not like today where kids are bowling every single thing. For me to make a trip down was like a big deal. So right. I did it a few times at that point.
Wow, that's a very, very cool career. Last week we had on Mike Dole earlier this week, and you said your first game was 95?
First year, my first average.
Your first average was 95. See, I was talking about first game. Dole's first game was 0.
Well, he was probably still trying to bowl right-handed,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He said something about that, AJ. Didn't he say something about right-handed, left-handed in his mom?
Yeah, he did talk about that a little bit. And then eventually they figured out that left-handed was his go-to, and he had to do it.
And that was a pretty good decision.
Yeah, not too terrible at all. Worked out well.
Oh yeah, cool.
The next question we have is going to be related towards coaching. How did you become a coach for the Hononegah boys high school team?
When my son got to high school, I mean, I'd helped with middle school. My son got to high school. I mean, at that time, I really didn't know that much about how the high school teams worked. So we just, I talked to Dave Cliff a little bit. And that first year, I didn't coach. I was just a dad and just watching and helping where I could. If, Dave needed something run or Dennis needed something, I would just help him with whatever. And then over that spring, summer for going into his sophomore year, we started talking, and he said, asked me if I could come on. So we did. And I'm glad I did. I mean, high school is just an amazing experience. Anyone who's into coaching should do high school bowling at some point in time. It is definitely fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Into it.
Wow. Yeah, you've had such a great history in Rockford with Hononegah. And since I've been here and been able to fortunately coach a lot of your boys, a little bit of a history of your record. It's amazing. You've had so many, like I said, good players with Nick Summer and that group. What's some of your records that you can recall? There's so many state championships, first, second, individual.
We won 2 state championships. Took second twice. So, I mean, that's when you get the big trophies. And, that's what you go for is the big trophies. But even the years that we missed, I mean, it's like 6th, 8th. I mean, that's still really good in the grand scheme of things when you look back on it. And then we've won regional. I have to say regionals probably, I think it's actually 6 out of the 7 years, but we've never won a sectional. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that we've won state championships. We win regionals a lot, but we can't win sectionals. Maybe one year we'll get that. We've won conference a few times. As with the state, I mean, it's Hononegah Harlem all the time. It's a very good competitive competition going on between both teams and seeing who's going to be there and who's going to win conference and who's going to win those regionals and sectionals and states. And luckily, we've both been able to bring home trophies back to the Rockford area.
Wow.
It's crazy to think how competitive you guys really are. You think when I was from Omaha, Nebraska before previously moving here for the last 6 or 7 years now. And when I first got here, I think I was in about, my chin dropped to the floor because I couldn't believe how crazy high school bowling is in the area. And to see the competitiveness that you guys have against each other as great teams is just phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, and it's a good atmosphere now. We're competing, but at the same time, we're all rooting for each other to do well. I mean, if we don't win, we want Harlem to win the state or one of the other local teams to win the state, depending on who's having a chance that year. Watching the Belvedere team this year make it to state, I mean, that was just incredible to watch.
Right.
You see some of the individuals who get there on their own because their team didn't make it, and they get that opportunity. It might only be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to do it. And, you want to make sure you're supporting all of them.
Yeah, also obviously, you're a part of that team. Assistant coach, the head coach has become kind of a legend in the area in Illinois.
Yeah.
Rockford's always kind of been able to. If you guys didn't make state, what in the world happened, or Harlem? Can you tell us a little bit about your head coach there, Brad Summer in Rockford here? He's been a pretty good coach.
His record is amazing. I mean, he won twice at Guilford, came to Hononegah and won 2 more times. Getting to coach with him finally at Hononegah, it was very obvious why his teams are always good. A lot of times when your teams win a lot, people just say you got good players, but somebody's got to be there to develop them to that level. And the things that he does, I mean, he's relentless. He just will not stop. He dives in head first into every project, and anything new idea that comes up, he's willing to look into and try it. I mean, he's got the kids doing yoga during practice. I mean, some of the teams doing, calisthenics and, stuff like that was one thing. And then next thing you know, out there with yoga and announcing that out for everyone to do. There's nothing he won't try to make the team better, to make the kids better. And he's so strong because he not only gets all that stuff, but he gets the physical game. Same thing. He dives into it and looks into anything. He asks anyone's opinion. A lot of head coaches think that they're the only one that they can answer a question. They know everything. Don't talk to anyone else. He's talking to everyone. I mean, he's asking anybody's opinion, trying to find out something they do. And then same thing on the other side of the game, the mental side. He's amazing in that area. He can take any situation and calm them down, get them refocused, get them in the right frame of mind. And mentally is so important nowadays. And same thing. He's got him out there reading articles. He's constantly doing research and pulling articles that he likes. He prints them out and then he gives them to the team, and they're out there reading them and then discussing them, and then bringing it back up a week later to remind them of what we talked about and where it fit. That's just not something you see around most teams. Hopefully it's happening more and more. Really important.
Yeah, I know there's always the history that if you want to go out for the team, a lot of high schools, they have a cut. And give them a little history of what Hononegah does. If you want to be a bowler on that program, how does that work? I know how it works, but this is amazing.
Okay, we'll go back to Brad's first year. We had, I think, 16, 17 bowlers the year before, and Brad comes in, and we had low 20s or whatever show up, and usually somebody don't show up after the first day or two or whatever. But we get to Friday, and Dennis and I are saying, okay, let's figure out how many we're going to keep. And Brad sits down and he goes, all of them. We're like, we laugh because we didn't, we weren't sure, we didn't know that's what he was thinking. And we're like, no, what's a good workable number? 18, we got 22 kids or whatever. And he goes, we're keeping them all. And little did we know in a few years we were going to cross 30, 40, 50 some bowlers. I mean, our team pitcher looks like a football team.
It really does.
But I've seen it now in action. There's a lot of people who are going to be lifelong bowlers because they were included in. They weren't told it doesn't work. You can't do this. You aren't already great. And some of them, it's just like just like youth leagues. Everyone has their own level they're trying to get to and feel good about and get to the next level. And you just watch it. You see a kid, who never bowled before come in and start bowling, and next thing you know, he starts shooting that 400, 450 series and working their way up. And in no time, you can see a kid from freshman year to senior year make a big difference and become a really good bowler. They might not ever make the varsity, but it isn't all about varsity. I mean, it's about being a part of a program and being something bigger than just one person and one team. I mean, I think we go to O'Fallon. We take a bus down there because we have so many kids, but you're talking 50 some kids traveling to O'Fallon for a tournament, and we do 5 on a team. Everyone's bowling. That's a trip they all remember. And, those are lifelong things that those kids, if you ask them back and ask about their O'Fallon trip, they're going to remember it. That's the first thing they usually bring up. And if they were cut, that never would have happened. They never would have got that experience.
So true.
Right. You imagine the downside whenever you get cut and you say, well, I guess I wasn't good enough to be a bowler, so I'm going to try maybe just to give up or do some other sport and see how that works. But there's so many of these kids since I've been in Rockford that have graduated from the program. They're still in the leagues in Rockford. And I said, where did you go to high school? Hononegah. Where did you go? Hononegah. Who did you go to? Hononegah. Harlem. So those 2 programs are so good. There's one funny thing too. I always, when you were Brad was telling me about tryouts, the first day of tryouts, there's something about running.
Yeah.
This is just hilarious what these kids have to go through.
It's changed from the early years that when he came up, but now it's a little more structured, so to speak. We actually now it's they got to run a mile. They got to do as many push-ups in a minute as possible. They got to do as many sit-ups as possible. Maybe we do planking. How long can you hold a plank? Just things to get them doing something. I mean, but yeah, those first few years, without a little bit of structure to it, there was some of them got a little wore out.
I bet they do.
There's a lot of running involved those first few days. It wasn't just a 1 minute, run a mile. It was follow the leader around the ball diamond out there, and wheelbarrow races. The one year he said, "Okay, everybody pair up." Didn't tell them what they were doing, and this one kid was probably the littlest kid there, and he was partners with the biggest kid, and they were about. And then Brad goes, "Okay, we're doing the wheelbarrow race." They looked at
You're all like, "What?"
But they did it.
Yeah.
Said he makes it fun. He makes the whole experience fun for most of the kids, and not that there's not issues with having 50 kids sometimes, but the overall experience is very positive.
Yeah, a lot of kids, they want to go out for a sport, and they might think, well, Mom and Dad said, why don't you try football? And they go, that'd be cool. And the tryouts are going to be pretty tough. They say, why don't you go out for bowling? It shouldn't be too tough to make the team. No, you're running 2 miles around to make a bowling team. So,
and that, for the most part, that just makes sure the people that are there are really wanting to be there. No one's going to go through that if they're just thinking, I'm just going to show up and do something. And let's face it, football, they have 100 kids, and there's 11 on the field at a time. They might only play 30 total kids. The rest just sit on the sideline. In bowling, they're all participating. Yeah. They're all having fun. So.
Yeah, and you guys have obviously, with that many kids, got quite a nice coaching staff. How many of you got as a staff now on the team?
I think we're at 4. So it's Brad, Dennis, myself, and Terry. We had Jeremy Woody, which back then that was just an amazing coaching staff. And Jeremy got the opportunity to do the girls program, and now he's really built up that girls program in a short amount of time. We really miss having Jeremy around, but we love watching what him and Mark are doing with the girls program. I have no doubt they'll be hoisting a trophy here really soon.
Oh yeah, that program has really, really taken off. That's super. And AJ in the shop really takes care of a lot of these kids, girls, and right?
Yeah, we see a lot of the kids, and thankfully, a lot of the coaches will bring them our way and let them know where to go, and we try to get to them and make sure that they have everything they need. Mark Olson and Jeremy are doing a fantastic job with that program. That's to be able to see it firsthand with coaching some of the Belvedere North team. It was always nice to see them out and about when they were coaching. They're really, really good at what they do. I can see why you miss them.
Yeah, I know. When they're done with the season in the summertime, because they still want to keep bowling, so that's when they jump into a little bit of what I do and work with them one-on-one. So it's always a pleasure to work with these kids and keep them going until tryouts for the next season. But yeah, all in all, Brad, it's a great program. But let me ask you this too. What's the history of how you got into the pro shop business in Rockford? You were very, very involved in the pro shop industry in Rockford. How'd you get all involved in that?
Well, you guys probably don't know Edgewood Lanes in Roscoe. That's where I bowled at Viking or Edgewood, and I ended up working at Edgewood. And at that time, the pro shop was run by Craig Bryan, and at one point, his brother Jim Bryan and myself got added in, and Craig's the one who taught me all of the stuff at the beginning, got me into it. I was in there. I was in high school doing this. And at some point, I started working more on the bowling center side, and I actually was getting out of the pro shop side. And I was going to school, and then you guys all know Ron Bragg with Brunswick now, but he had just gone out to work the ladies tour. And then he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I need help," and that's how I really got into it to that level. Was, I had spent a couple years working in the pro shop in town at Edgewood, but the real education and everything was out on tour.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy paced drilling experience, I would imagine, from what I've seen. So
yeah, at one point, when I first went out there, we were probably only doing 50, 60, 70 balls a week. At some point, it just exploded. I mean, in the 90s, the bowling ball world exploded when resin came out, and all the companies were, putting out bowling balls really fast, and they wanted to get them out. And we got to the point where 100 was pretty normal, and 150 was probably half the weeks. And then you get to the U.S. Opens and things like that, we might do 250 bowling balls in a week.
Wow. When did you have some shops, backing up a little bit?
Yep.
You have some shops in Don Carter also as you grew with that time period?
Actually, I went on the ladies tour in about 1990. It was fall, and then in 92 I opened up the shop at Edgewood, and then in 94 Ron Bragg left, went to work at the Reno Hilton. So I was taking over the truck for the ladies tour, and at that point I moved into Cherry Bowl. At that point it was just a storeroom. It was an old arcade area, just full of storage stuff. And at that point we started converting that into a pro shop. It's actually the same spot that you guys have now, just you have a lot more of it.
Yeah, there's a ton of space there now.
But that shop there,
yeah,
I was with Mike Truitt. We were partners, and I don't know if AJ knows Mike, but I'm sure Coach does.
Yeah, a little bit, and not as much as Coach probably would.
But Mike's he had run pro shops forever and ever in the area, and the two of us was quite the combo, to put you lightly there. He was quite the character. He was that pro shop guy that people came in and got a show. I mean, he talked, and he was really talked a lot. he was very confident in his abilities, but he taught me a lot too. I mean, between Craig and Truitt and Ron Bragg and the guys out on tour, I mean, I learned a lot of things from many different people. But at some point, I stopped traveling, and that's when I ended up back, and ended up at Carter's, because we basically combined Cherry Bowl and Carter's at that time and to operate as one pro shop. So that's how I ended up at Don Carter's then for so many years.
Wow. I don't know if most people know that Rockford, the Ladies Pro Tour, when it first started, was the creation of Mr. John Summer, right? And the home office was there at Don Carter for the Ladies Tour, and you were, I'm sure, remembering to be a part of all that. And John Falzone, it was really a cool time, wasn't it?
Yeah, the office was at Cherry Bowl. It actually is really, the main office back then was kind of where your office is now there. It was around the back in that area, and then it got bigger, and then it moved to the other part of the building.
Wow.
Yeah, there's quite a history of that, just that. But trying to think of where we were going there. The John Falzone, he was running Cherry Bowl and then running the ladies tour. Kind of a common theme where many people do many things in the bowling industry. And then at one point he just concentrated on the ladies tour, and got away from the Cherry Bowl. I think that's when it actually moved to the other part of the building. And if you go out to Cherry Bowl, there's still a sign out there that says Home of the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour outside that door.
Right.
Yeah, it's the old original sign, which is really cool. I think I've taken some pictures from there,
Yep.
Or even done some live feeds back in that back area there. Yeah,
a few years ago when the last ladies tournament was there, it was Ron Bragg, Sean Morris, Scott McLaughlin, and I got a picture together right in front of the sign, which was kind of cool. We were missing Schlemmer.
Wow.
Schlemmer, how old do you think Schlemmer is? I can't remember. He's got to be around our age, isn't he?
He's got to be, I'm going to say 44.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think he was when Ryan was born is when I stopped traveling. So that was 98. Ryan's 22 now. I think he was about 22 at the time when he first started on the truck.
Yeah.
He might have been younger, honestly.
I'm going to try to reach out to him and see if we can't get some time with him, maybe. That'd be pretty cool to sit down and chat with him, too.
Yeah,
a lot of things with the tour.
Yeah.
If I could keep going a little bit, AJ, I just wanted to ask you, as far as people don't realize what goes on when you're player services on the truck. I know Litchie had the men's tour for a long time, and when you were out there and traveling, that had to be pretty grueling. And as far as the girls coming in, I don't want to get any names, but were some of the girls a little more, I need a new ball, I need a new ball, or some of the girls would go, I got what I need? How hectic was it on the tour truck? And who did you have at the time helping you?
When I took over, that's when I hired Sean Morris, which was,
Wow.
I mean, he was amazing. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better person all around, from all aspects of what we needed. And it's really cool that he's been able to do what he's done now in the business. But Sean and I was a really good team, and we stayed together for 4 to 5 years before I stopped traveling. But the ladies, practice day, that's the day you do most of the bowling balls of the week. As soon as practice gets going, we usually would open the door about an hour into practice. That way we didn't get bombarded immediately and gave people a chance to actually practice on the shot that week. And then we just start taking the orders. I mean, some weeks we'd have, there'd be tour reps there, and they would be the ones trying to work with the ladies and figure out what they need and come out and lay out their equipment. Others, they didn't have reps, and then we worked with them all. And, even when, some were more demanding than others, obviously, but, at the end of the day, you got to remember, they were out there trying to pursue their dream, make a living. I mean, some of them were trying to make a cut that week so they could bowl the next week because, they had a bad stretch. Maybe money was getting tight. I mean, you had to remember that, the tour, you see all the people at the top making all the money. You don't realize that there's a whole bunch of people behind them that are living out their dream and trying to keep it going. So you just had to remember that. But yeah, that was, those were hectic days. I mean, you didn't, those days usually started at 7 or 8 in the morning and you didn't leave until you were done. So if you had 40 balls to drill that day, it didn't take that long, but if you had 80 or 100, that sun's going down and, it's getting late and you're still out there working. But overall, once you got past that day, they weren't that bad. But it was, out there, the pace was 7 days a week, and sometimes we had 8 days in a week because the schedule makers sometimes didn't think about travel and the schedule for each week. And sometimes they overlapped a little where you had to leave right after the TV show and be set up that next day in the next town 500 miles away. Because the show was on Thursday night and, pro-ams were really big and important to the centers. And some of them had pro-ams starting Saturday morning and they ran them all day Saturday and Sunday. So, we would sometimes pack up after a TV show that started at 7, got over at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you packed up afterwards. So you're getting out of there maybe by midnight, and you're jumping in whatever vehicles we were doing at the time, driving wherever,
right,
to get set up. And, you didn't have, oh, my shift's over. I'm done for the day. The next shift's coming in. There was none of that. It was all us, and we just had to do whatever the schedule was. I mean, when you got the schedule, you looked at it, and we knew very quickly what weeks were going to be harder than others. And you also pre-planned, like, okay, let's just drive overnight. Sometimes we did that on purpose. We'd drive overnight, set up on Friday morning, even though there was no pro-am in practice till Sunday, because we actually could then maybe get Saturday off. Didn't always work well, especially once Chris and I were in a motorhome right next to the truck. It was hard to get away.
Yeah, I bet. It's too easy to get from one place to the next.
Yeah, I remember how important, we were so excited when they had a tour stop in Atlanta, how wonderful the girls were in the pro-ams. I mean, they were all so gracious and professional and would stay and talk and do all the autographs. The guys do too, but I remember the ladies in that, and they still do, were so nice in the pro-ams.
Yeah, that's what we heard all the time. I mean, people liked watching the guys and the ladies tour, but they always said the women were so much more nice to talk to, and they would talk more. I mean, they would spend more time. And, it just could just be the difference in the amount of bowlers that were out there and the people that were in the buildings. I mean, some towns we went to and you knew everybody. I mean, you'd go there every year. You knew all the employees. You knew the fans. And then there's other towns where you just didn't seem to have that as much. I mean, it's just like anything else. Sometimes you really look forward to going back to some of those areas because they did such a great job running the tournament.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing that stands out too is even like the history of seeing some of the things back in Omaha when they were doing some of the PBA stops. is seeing how well they were running it to make, so many friendships when you come back there. Everybody wanted to see them again because they had seen them the year before. They're like, oh, I can't wait to see them again. So that was always fun to do too, for sure.
You also remember most people live their life remembering what food and where they ate. And you'll know the name of it. I can't remember the name, but the bowling center there, Maplewood.
Yep.
There was an Italian buffet restaurant right there in the
Valentino's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody forward to going to Valentino's in Omaha.
Yep.
And we always loved Maplewood Lanes because, that was just top-notch facility. They had a great place there. Yeah,
they've got a few that are really good. Maplewood is definitely one of the top that stand out. Maplewood, because of COVID and everything, have been going back and forth with the issues, kind of like what you guys probably have to deal with as well, of how many capacity-wise you can have and the delayedness of when it actually is starting. And I would imagine that has a ton to play with on how things are kind of going forward.
Yeah, basically, there's just a lot of unknown.
Yep.
Until we get closer to everything and when the next phase is. Illinois is for us, it's pretty one of some of the more stricter guidelines and holding everything back longer. So right now, like the bowling centers, we're thinking June 26th is when we'll be able to open the doors with restrictions. It sounds like we might be able to do outdoor patios starting next weekend, and we'll have to decide where that makes sense. But yeah, we talked June 26th. Now we're past the time where most leagues are going to want to probably come back and finish up what they had left. Summer leagues are going to be very abbreviated. So it's going to take a lot of creativity. We just did a Bruce Davis call yesterday with a lot of centers from Illinois for the Illinois State Bowling Proprietors, with Bruce, and just talking about some thoughts of what we can do to try to get people back in the doors that want to come in and give them things that they can do. And because it's not going to be the same for a while.
Yeah.
We're probably going to be every other pair for a while. Hopefully that's all passed and we're past this to the point where leagues can start in the fall.
Are you going to be on the guidelines? I've been seeing so many restrictions for the house balls. Are you going to have to clean the finger holes and clean the house balls and hold the weights and hand them out and clean them after they've been used? Are you under that program too?
Yeah, Illinois State Bowling Proprietors came up with the guidelines. BPA has come up with guidelines. We're going to follow all of them completely. We were already, before we were closed back in March, we were already doing a lot of that. And a lot of the guidelines are things that you already do. You just have to do them a lot more often. So like the bowling balls, we were already cleaning them after each use. We were telling people to leave them on the ball return if they used house balls, and we would clean them and then put them back. Hardest part is, there's someone we're talking about doing that kind of process differently. And, centers are not really set up for a bowling ball storage behind the counter. Some are talking about putting a set amount of bowling balls on every pair and don't touch them, leave them on the ball return. Well, what happens when, you two come out and want to bowl and there's all these bowling balls on the rack already? Someone's got to touch them then. So you got to put them away still. So I think a lot of it we'll have some guidelines, but when we open and we start getting people in, I think we'll start to see how to make procedures work and work for the people that are coming in, and it'll get easier day by day. Yeah,
I would think so too. You and I have talked a little about it too, that by the time that the centers open, I say we a lot, but the centers open up, they'll be farther along with everything anyway. At that point too, I would think that some things will be already changing for the better, you would think, at some point.
Yeah, for Illinois here, we're allowed to open in phase 4, and by phase 4, things aren't as strict. Like if we were trying to open up with phase 3 that's supposed to start here soon, there'd be a lot of restrictions. It probably wouldn't even be worth opening with the restrictions. You hear about a lot of these centers that open and they're just not busy because it's just too much for a lot of people to want to go through to do. You get a few people. So I see Jory's got a question there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'd like to know when the downtime actually is.
I thought that was probably going to be your response, considering what I've seen you already been doing.
honestly, I almost want to get back open so it won't be as much work. We are spending this time trying to make the most of it, and we are doing tons and tons of updates and remodeling and things to the centers to try to improve them. We got new bowlers area floors going in at Forest Hills and Cherry Bowl, also over at Carter's, and Viking got a new bowlers area floor. We're doing new entry floors and for the entryways. The bar at Cherry Bowl is getting a new floor. We're updating at Forest Hills. We're almost done with the bathroom update. Of course, the one end started, like 3-4 years ago, it seems like. And
Forever ago, right?
that part of the building had some issues that had to be taken care of and some other things that caused delays. But now they're going to be done when we open. That'll be nice. Plus, we got a few other surprises that we're working on. So there's no downtime right now. Chris just said to me the other day, she goes, when are you going to be husband Tony and help me with some of these home projects that we want to get done? I think she's wanting them done tomorrow. So,
It's too funny.
then from the coaching standpoint, like Rock Valley, we got shut down right before sectionals, and that was crushing. I mean, some of the kids may never get another chance to go to sectionals.
Let's back up just a second, Tony. And you talk about Rock Valley. We haven't really asked you about that. That was my next point. I mean, you're jumping in, which is cool. I'm excited about this RVP, which was what Joy's saying there. Well, how did you get involved in the Rock Valley Collegiate Bowling Program and go from there from the very beginning with Rock Valley 2 years ago? Great.
When wife was coaching with Hononegah, it was at the time, it was actually Clay Coogan and Trey Arnold who were looking for colleges to go to and bowl. And, my son was same age as them, but he pretty much already decided, he was thinking he was going to go to NIU. He was going to, at one point he was going to do accounting. And then he figured out he's going to go to Rock Valley for 2, but he really, at that time, he wasn't like, I want to bowl. It wasn't like the main reason for picking where he was going to go to college, where Clay and Trey wanted to find both. They wanted to find a college and they wanted to be able to bowl. And I remember talking to them about things, and they said, if Rock Valley had a team again, it'd be a lot easier. We would just go to Rock Valley, but because we don't, we're looking for somewhere else. So I'm talking with their parents, and they're like, hey, what can be done about this? And I said, I don't know, at the time. And I remember Dennis Mowry saying to me, Tony, you're going to be coaching Rock Valley soon. And I went, no, I'm not. I got enough things going on. I don't need that too. And he just laughed. He goes, you're going to be coaching it. I already know. Well, at some point I said to Brad, hey, what do you think it would take to get the team going again? Were you involved in the past with all that stuff? So, it was just something we talked about. And the next day, he's already been to Rock Valley. He's already tracked down the person for clubs. He's trying to set up a meeting. I mean, it's just typical Brad. He just jumps in head first and goes. So we thought we had it going then at that point where we were going to be able to get the club back. The club didn't need to be restarted. It was just dormant for a few years. There was already an account set up for it. It actually had little bit of money in it. So we were going to be able to get it going. Then it was like, okay, are we going to fund it? So, we ended up figuring out a way for the local NIBPA to help, just like they helped Highland. And then the person in charge of the club was gone. They either left for another job, and we were like starting over. They had nobody in the job, and we went through the whole summer now. College starts at the end of September with tournaments and everything. And time was ticking along, and we didn't have anything. We had no contacts. There was nobody to talk to. And then someone new finally got in the job. We got the club back going again with that person. I think it was early September. And I had 6 kids that I had lined up that wanted to bowl. Trey, Clay, Ryan, Brett Sprecher, Andy Eister, and Austin Severing. And what we found out was we needed a advisor. Well, Austin's mom worked at the college, so she became our advisor out of the gate. And without her doing that, we never would have got off the ground, because you had to have an advisor, and because all of our stuff was travel, we had to have an advisor full-time who would travel with us. So that's how we got off the ground and running. The next step was getting it to become a sport, which is what allowed us to compete in the NJCA tournaments. So that was trying to get the right people. It turned out the second in command there was Jim Ryan, someone who Brad had known a little bit. Misty Opat was the athletic director, and we finally got a meeting with them. And we're sitting around trying to explain all this, and Misty just says, I mean, she didn't know bowling. she's a basketball coach. She's an athletic director. There's a bunch of sports out there they could have. And this was just what she knew. She goes, why would we start a program when there's nowhere for them to go after this? So we pulled up and showed her the 200 and some colleges that had college programs, just like that. She's like, I'm in.
Wow.
She was in. And especially when she realized that we probably could put a competitive team on the floor pretty quick. ADs like trophies.
Yeah.
And now we're at a state at Rock Valley where Jim Ryan's no longer there. Misty's no longer there. Luckily, we got more people. I mean, Darren Monroe's the new athletic director, and it's just been amazing. He is so supportive of the program. Totally backs behind it. Same thing. I'm sure he likes the trophies, which it's funny because I got the trophies sitting here in my office because I had them for the high school banquet, and then everything kind of shut down. I never had the chance to take them home back to the Rock Valley. So I've had the trophies sitting here. They're fun to look at every day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it got started. It comes back to it. Probably was just finding the right person and finding out what their reason is for not thinking it should move forward. And, that only happened because Brad just doesn't stop. He just keeps going until he finds those people and figures out what it is and then tries to get it fixed. And now we've got a great program that kids now from all these, for hopefully many, many years are going to be able to make the decision to not spend that $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year going off to college just because they want to bowl in college. They can stay home, or even we're going to start getting kids from outlying areas that say, wow, Rock Valley is an amazing deal. To go to and look at the bowling program they've already put together. I mean, this year, the guys were 33rd in this country out of 200 schools. That's including all the 4-year schools. Girls were 64th, and it was an all-freshman team. So you take that list of all those girls programs, make a list of all the ones that were all freshmen, and then we'd probably be the only team on that list, my guess is.
That's because of the coach.
I hope that we help. It's definitely a product of the Rockford environment. It's definitely a product of the bowlers who are coming in, who are wanting this to work, and they want to be determined. They want to compete. Some of them are doing it because they want to move on to their 4-year school and they want to go to a better program, versus just maybe going somewhere where they can bowl. So they're knowing they got to put a lot into it. The players kind of feed off themselves and push themselves a lot, which is what you want in a team.
Yeah, and I know we've just had I saw online here where a lot of your kids were really up there in the grade point average. I think Jake and a couple others, they're doing really well.
Yeah, very proud of that. It was very difficult when everything switched to online. As an athletic department, we were definitely concerned of how we were going to keep them engaged, how to do it, and we switched up. We used to do grade checks every 3 to 4 weeks, and it was they would just turn in the teacher.
They're doing really well.
Yeah, very proud of that. What's going on?
Sorry. Some of the stuff I try to keep on top of, and for some reason I think I hit the wrong button for it. So just it attached everything that was going on here to there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So basically, we decided to go to weekly grade checks.
Good.
One that kept us in communication with the players every week. And main thing it did was it made them look at their grades every week. I mean, you think that, for some people that would be obvious that you'd be checking your grades every week to see if your homework got graded and got put in right. That you got an A on something, it doesn't get put in as a D. But not everybody looks at it every week. So by inspecting it constantly and being on top of it, I think it helped push some of them to keep that grade up. Where if you wait a couple weeks, it might slip a little and you didn't even notice it. We ended up with some amazing grades. The president's list is got 5 on it. Hope I don't miss anybody. Kelsey Olson, Jocelyn Johnson, Jacob Summer, Brett Boyteen, and I'm missing one. I'm going to look for it because I'm not going to miss one.
That's a big deal.
It was really good. And then, in total, we just had so many get even on the dean's list, which is 3.25, of which they were all over 3.5. Who am I missing? Jacob. Okay, Jacob and Brett, Jocelyn and Kelsey. And then Tegan, who was dean's list, she just missed. She got 1B. Not sure if I'm supposed to say grades, but I mean, when you got that good of a grade, I'm sure you don't care. And then Dylan Hamill and Christina Simon. Um, so, for them, they were in a difficult situation. They now couldn't go into a classroom. They couldn't, they weren't having their peers right there to talk about homework assignments or what was the problem. Now they had to be all, not like they're on their phones all the time, but all their communication for help like that would be done that way. And so for them to stay on it and to not only do well, but to excel to that level is awesome to see. And now we're going to continue that. We're going to continue the weekly grade checks with the same system that we developed during this time period. And that's what's kind of cool about times like this, when things get shaken up and you got to relook at things. Sometimes some great ideas come out of it, and you come up with some new things that work really well. And sometimes you come up with ideas that don't work, and you just scrap them and move on to the next one.
That's what I like about most of the people that I know in our industry, like yourself, Coach, Bowler Smart, a lot of other facets. Brad, the positivity. The easiest thing would be to be super negative and be unhappy about everything happening, but the ultimate is to find the best positivity you can out of everything and try to move forward with it and try to find different avenues to make it work.
Yep.
So I mean, kudos to everybody involved trying to get that to go for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I just saw a new one. One of the guys on Facebook is Coach Lyle that I like to follow, and he always got some good sayings. And one he just put out was fight, fright, or freeze. And that's what people do when you have an obstacle, you have a problem that comes up. You either fight your way through it, you get scared of it, or you freeze and you do nothing. Right. And it's learning how to fight through it and get through it and make the most of the situation and learn from it. Even if you fail. I mean, we all fail. We all fail more than we succeed. So if you fail and you learn nothing from it, that was a negative. If you fail and learn something from it, you've actually gained something, probably more than if you would have succeeded. You learn more.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we leave the topic of Rock Valley, and you got an opportunity, Tony, how would a potential kid and the parents are listening in maybe want to come to you and recruit, and what do they need to do to get with you and to make the team? Try to make the team.
Well, at this point, we have a no-cut policy. I'm not sure where that came from, but that could.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point,
sounds familiar.
Makes you cut. You're only allowed so many, but you can contact me. We've got a Rock Valley Bowling Facebook page. You can contact me through my own. You can call either Cherry Bowl or Forest Hills. Most of my contact info is out there. You can find it on Rock Valley's homepage. All I say is if you're even considering any of this for bowling in college, you really should look at Rock Valley. It is an amazing experience. I've had player after player after player tell me how it's the smartest decision they ever made. They're so glad they did. I've had other players who have chosen not to and gone elsewhere, and they've come back to me and said, we should have talked more. I think, Rock Valley might have been a better choice. And then you see the players that go off into somewhere else and they have a great time and they're glad they made that choice. And that's really all you're looking for, is you're trying to help everyone get the right fit. If this isn't the right fit, I've told many of them, I will help you find the right fit. Because it's not important for me to have, we don't have room for everybody. You can't have every single person that wants to bowl in college. So there's a whole bunch of great programs out there, and there are so many amazing coaches and programs that are out there. And what's great about the whole college industry, everybody helps each other. We all know each other. We're all friends, Yeah. I mean, there was a player locally that ended up going somewhere else. I had numerous conversations with the place he ended up going to about this player, and hopefully it's going to be a good choice for him and it'll work out. I would love to have him. There's a lot of players you love to have, but you don't get them all. But yeah, just reach out to me. There's always room, and until we get to a full roster, which I can't even imagine what that would be like if we had 24 bowlers on the men's and 24 bowlers on the women's. I might need help, a lot more help.
I'm sure you do. It was sad. You guys were ready to go to the big event, right? And then the COVID kind of knocked you back, and I was really disappointed for your kids.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I mean, we just came off the high of coming back. Guys winning, girls getting third in the country, and some great individual accomplishments out there. And we're all ready to go for the first sectional, and it got stopped. At least we weren't traveling. Nick Summer was already traveling with Wichita on his way to the sectional. and they had to turn around. I heard some schools were already in the town and had to turn around. So, but yeah, it's hopefully nobody misses out completely. There will be some. A couple of our players, they were sophomores, so they're not going to be back next year, and not all of them are going on to 4-year schools constantly. Some are only doing 2-year programs, so this was their chance to do it, and hopefully they'll have another chance to do something. I mean, there's other ways to bowl. It's not like just like people who bowl in high school or college. It's not like that's the only thing you're ever going to do in bowling. There's plenty of opportunities to bowl in different environments. You just wish that everyone would get a chance to do it.
Yeah, we'll see. Talking about the idea of college, my wife's going through her master's currently, which is a blast, and fun to see her getting that to go. We actually just recently had our own discussion about potentially having me, when I talked to you about that already the other day, about me going back to college to finish my degree. But I don't know if that would consist of me being able to bowl. It's a lot of needed things on my end for you for me to be an actual bowler.
Up your full-time job, all your leagues, all your tournaments. You got 15 credits, and you got to do 4 hours of study hall. And if your grades slip, we're going to make it 6 hours. And then you got to do your homework and your studying. So yeah, that might be a little tough for you to fit in.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But I have a spot whenever you're ready.
We talked about that in the past. I enjoyed the coaching part of it that I did the one time that you needed some extra help for the coaching. I thought that was pretty fun.
Well, I'm hoping at some point here we get more bowlers, so we have JV teams, and we'll need more people helping. Coaching the past few years, any programs like this, it's not one person. I mean, right now I've got Chris Wiley with the girls, and my son Ryan is helping with the guys, and you always need more help. There's so much running a program.
Yep, exactly.
All the individual people that you got to talk to and deal with. I mean, they're going through college bowling's hard. Juggling their schedule, they're juggling their homework, their workouts, their practice, their team of activities. Most of them have jobs. They have home life. They have relationships and families, and it's just a lot to do in a short amount of time. And then they're supposed to, perform well.
Yeah, right.
And they got to deal with the times that they don't perform well. I mean, not everybody does well. Not every tournament goes where everyone does their best. I mean, some people just don't up as well, and they got to deal with that. And that's not easy to deal with. They're all wanting to do well, and when you struggle, it's not as much. It's hard. So a lot of conversations that go on during a season, trying to keep people understanding to make the most of what happened and move on.
Yeah, that comes with time, I think. I mean, you and I, coach, have all seen that in time. You just get better at dealing with downs more, and understanding that the ups will be there, and there won't be as many downs eventually. You just kind of keep bearing through it all the way through.
Yeah, and the hardest part about college is the most team sport. I mean, it is a team. You can't be an individual in college. It does not work. Coming out of high school, even though it's a team sport, it still has a little more of an individualistic feel in some way. A lot more, individual awards and things that happen. In college, you're in Baker. It's who's best for the next shot, in and out. If somebody looks good, they might have not bowled all on Saturday, and they come out on Sunday and they start throwing good shots and carrying. You're gonna keep putting them out there, and that might mean someone bowled well the day before doesn't have a good look today. Now they're not bowling, and for some of them it's hard to deal with because they've all been the best or one of the best bowlers on their high school team, and that's led to some. Sometimes you gotta put your arm around them and talk them through it, and sometimes you gotta do it from the other direction and get it in their face and make sure they understand what the situation is, and that it's a team sport. You got to play your role, and today your role is this. Tomorrow you could be the person that everyone's looking to throw the strike in the 10th.
True.
Yeah. And I know that your kids are very unified, and they're really, really, really good, and they don't probably have any issues with that to be team bonding, and I know a lot of them, but you got a super crowd.
Yeah, they're all great kids. They're all, they're all in it for the right reasons, which is the main thing. Trying to bowl in college, get their degree, which is most important. I mean, at the end of the day, if you bowled all the time in college and you don't get your degree at the end, what'd you go to college for? College should be to get your degree or your certificate, because like I said, it's a lot of them are doing automotive welding programs. Those aren't 4-year programs. We got one Sawyer who's doing his automotive, and he's also getting his 2-year associate. So he's going to be he'd be like 2.5 to 3 years, depending on how he spaces out his next year. But he can't bowl his 3rd year with us because he only can bowl 2 years. So you got everyone coming for different reasons at Rock Valley.
Gotcha. So we're going to lead into some of the other questions that we have for you. I think one of them, we actually touched base with some of the changes, so I don't think we'll really have to go over it. So the next one is a really good question personally for yourself, and maybe more towards the idea of your wife. But your wife bowled on the pro tour.
Yeah.
Did you coach her at all, or is there any stories towards that?
Well, we coached anybody and everybody who wanted help. That's just the way it was. I mean, we were sometimes like Sean and I were the only ones there. There was no one. There was no ball reps, and ball rep shows up. They might have 5 players on their team, on their staff. That's where they spend their time. They don't spend their time with everyone else. So we were always available to everybody. Some wanted help more than others, just like anything else. Some people would use it more. Chris, she had. I would help her with things, but I mean, she always had other people. I mean, she had Bill coaching her. She went to Fred Borden. I mean, she was like a lot of them that she went to more people to get different points of view. And then, she also had her father and her brother who would, work with her too and talk to her about things. And, the longer you're in the business, the more you realize there's just so many good people out there that know what they're doing and can help. And you just, most people know how to go to everybody and get everyone's opinion and learn from it.
It's awesome.
Yep.
The next question is going to be, we're going to skip the one because it was more towards, we saw a bunch of stuff on Facebook with the remodel and stuff like that you guys are doing. But I think we already kind of touched base with that. So the next one's just going to be, what is your top 3 bowlers of all time, women and men professionals?
Oh boy, you're going to make me think. Gosh, naming 3. I just feel like
what era, AJ? What do you want to throw him into? What era?
You got to do it. Like for the ladies, it has to be when I was out there.
That's fine. I mean, you can pick whatever you want, whatever works. Hopefully, your wife makes the list. No.
I don't think she makes the number 1 for me.
That's good. That's good.
If I'm looking at the 90s when I was out there, I don't know if I can stop at 3. I mean, when you had Carolyn Doran, Ballard. You had Anne-Marie Dugan, Tish Johnson, Alita Sill. I mean, you want me to stop at 3?
No, you can keep going. There's a lot. I know that.
There are a lot.
I mean,
there are a lot.
Kim Adler, Carol Giannotti,
Lisa Wagner.
I mean, she dominated the 80s, and she still had some really good stretches when I was out there. But yeah, I don't. If you made me only pick 3, I'd have to think about that for a while. I think it's too close. I know too many of them too well to want to select one. I probably already did by not mentioning somebody who might even be obvious.
You mentioned Carolyn Doran Ballard. I have a funny story that I'm not sure if I've shared with you or Coach ever, but I went to Team USA trials the first year that they decided to change it and go to Vegas. I want to say it was at Sunset, and Del Ballard happened to be there, and so was my good friend Tony, which Coach Tony Manna Fridge. Yep. We were sitting there waiting for Del to come downstairs to the bar area because we were just going to hang out and have a drink, and then they were going to leave because at that time the competition hadn't started yet, so I really didn't. There was no interference, so to speak, with what was going on. So he's there, and Tony invites me and says, "Hey, this is Del Ballard. Have you guys ever met?" And I said, "Hey, aren't you Karen Doran Ballard's husband?" And he thought it was so funny. He called her up right away and was like, "You got to hear this. You got to listen to what he just said." So then that was the first chance I got to see and talk to both of them, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, that I think has happened more than once. where
Yeah.
he's now Carolyn's husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about ladies on tour are some of the favorites, and we ask this question to our guest every week. And I have to tell you, in Atlanta, one of the sweetest ladies ever, and was one of my favorite, great with the kids and pro-ams, was Betty Morris.
Oh yeah.
She was bowler of the decade in the 80s, and there were some kids that wanted an autograph with her. I'll never forget, she was standing there, and they were kind of after the pro-am, and it was getting kind of late, and she was pretty tired, and they were like disappointed. But she said, just stay right here, give me about 10 minutes, and I'll go freshen up, because you're pretty messy after you bowled your block and you've been bowling. And she went in, she did her makeup, she came back out there, she's there for another hour with these kids. So, that's one of the great things about the ladies on tour. They really cared about it a lot. So did the guys, but this really stood out for me.
Just the ladies are different. They cared, I think, more about all that kind of stuff and really got more active in the community.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There's a question from Jerry. There's your brother-in-law.
Yeah. That's my cousin, Jerry.
Cousin.
Yep. And, it's pretty easy to answer that one. That would be my father. We bowled adult junior leagues as kid when I was a kid. And, this was kind of the thing I did with my dad. So.
That's cool, man. Super cool. My dad he bowled, but then he stopped bowling because he got arthritis really bad and he couldn't bowl anymore. It was tough to bend his fingers and stuff. So
if you can imagine, my dad did a lot of projects and was always doing things and hurting himself, and that wouldn't have stopped him from bowling. He just kept going.
Yeah. Yep. My mom was the bigger bowler. I think she liked to bowl a lot more.
My mom didn't really like bowling. She bowled couples leagues with my dad here and there, and she was going to be done bowling. I don't remember what this would have been when I was probably still in high school. She was saying, "This is it. I'm not bowling anymore." And she had never bowled a 200 game in her life. And she shot a 200 on the nose her last game she ever bowled.
That's awesome.
I did.
That's pretty good.
That's really cool.
Did you have a top 3 guys that you could pick?
Well, that's hard. For me, that's going to go back to when I was a kid watching bowling, who I liked watching. And I would say back then my 3 favorite were Amleto, Petey, and Brian Voss. Those are the 3 that I really liked watching when they would be on the show that week. Amaletto, I always loved watching. That was probably my favorite to really watch. Petey's just his way he bowled and the determination to win. And then Brian Voss, he won in Peoria, and then he won back-to-back weeks. He won the national championship, I think, in Toledo, came to Peoria, won, and then we actually saw him. We went to the Milwaukee Pro-Am that year and bowled, and we saw him there, and just, he was the big guy right then. Obviously winning back-to-back tournaments. Yeah. That just kind of sticks in my mind. Those 3.
Awesome.
I think, AJ, wasn't it A Couch, Jason last week said his first win on tour? Was that against Voss?
I think so, yeah. He almost positive that's what he said, if I remember right. He said that was one of his most memorable times on the lanes, just because obviously it's your first and against somebody that you admire and you think is pretty cool dude to begin with, and you're going up against him. It's a little different. You try to get rid of the friendship idea or the thought of liking somebody and being like, I'm going to go against you. I got to beat you.
Happens, one day you're on TV, the next day you're competing against them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I told you when you had Jason on that I remember it would have been 91. We were in Florida in Orlando, and Jason was around there, and I remember people saying he's going out on tour, and he was, we saw that a lot. Every time we go to, there's always that great bowler who was going to go out on tour, and little did I know that he was going to go on to not only bowl well on tour, but what I think turn into a legend basically of the PB.
Yeah, he really did. That was it was a shock to me when Coach said that we were going to be able to have him on. I was like, man, that's cool. We've gotten to be able to chat with him at some of our things that Cliff has put together, but I never thought that we'd actually sit down and chat with him for an hour. So that was pretty cool. Our next couple of items are brought to us by some things that we're related with, which is 12-bagger and Coolwick, and they are, what is your most memorable 300 game and why? And
Okay.
what is your most memorable 800 and why?
Well, I can only answer one of them. I have actually never had an 800.
Really? I didn't know that.
Bowled as much as most people think. I bowled a lot when I was younger. I went on a ladies tour, thought I was going to lead to me bowling on tour, and I jumped in the work side a little bit and never really got back to that thought. So, so that's I can answer my high series because but the most memorable 300 is my first one. I was 16 years old at Edgewood and did it on the Sunday Adult Junior, bowling with my dad and my cousin Jerry and my uncle Jerry.
Nice.
So they're very memorable, obviously. And
yeah, for sure. Lots of family stuff.
I actually threw my high series was 771. I threw 300 game 3. I threw the final 22 strikes of that. Unfortunately, I missed a couple 10 pins in game 1, or I would have had a 800 that series.
Holy cow! I never knew that. Man. I'm sorry that.
That's okay. Don't worry about no 800s. I've only got one in 50 years of bowling, so that's all right. Don't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have one if we ever get the bowl league again.
Yeah, I got the ring finally.
And I got to show up every week to keep bowling and keep my game sharper.
Well, that would mean you'd have to have less hats, I think, because there's no chance.
I tried to tell my cousin when he said he put me on the Thursday night team. I said I'm going to make half the weeks at most, and I was on pace for it. I think to be close. On Monday night I made it. Thursday night I fell behind a little bit, but
yeah,
that's just a lot of things in the schedule.
Jeez, no doubt, man, no doubt. Well, we've enjoyed our time with you, man. It's amazing how I think you asked me when I first asked you about coming on. You're like, what are we going to talk to you about for an hour? And here it is, an hour and 5 minutes in, pretty much. So
yeah,
that was really fun. It was good talking with you. It's good to see you, like always, and
hopefully we'll be able to, all meet up at the bowling center here soon and get back to bowling league and having fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely, Tony. Really appreciate you coming on. It's a lot of good stuff you're doing. Really busy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely. All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Have a good afternoon.
Time to get back to work.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool guy.
Very, very cool. So we are I think we had a lot of really good answers and a lot of good questions there to find out from what's been kind of going on. It's nice to see some of the changes. I know that there are some that I've heard of already that he didn't list, and I think that's part of his surprise, so I'm not going to say any of them. So I think people will be very, very surprised and happy to see some of the things that they're going to see here in the near future, hopefully near future.
Great. Can't wait to hear about that. One other thing too, I just want to say we had Bobby Schmidt come on here earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And I just want to say, Bobby, hope you're safe and everything's good with you, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. He now lives in Vegas, and I think if I recall correctly, I thought I saw Kurt Chavo had posted at one point that he was back in town for a little bit, I think recently, but I'm not 100% on that one. Obviously, they're going through the same problems that we are. There's some of it that's a little bit more drastic for them because of the amount of people that they see. I think Bobby works at least he did last time I talked to him. He was working at Planet Hollywood. So the casinos are not able to have people in them right now because of the pandemic and some of the issues that have kind of been created because of it. So we definitely, for sure, wishing him well, and hopefully their town comes back into a little speedier recovery for sure. One of my good friends.
I got an opportunity, sir. Well, I got an opportunity. I was looking today while we're Rockford people, and we were in the community of bowling. Have you heard about what Brad's going to do over at Don Carter Lanes this Saturday with the cookout?
I have not.
Yeah, they're going to have a big deal with the Miracle Mile. They're going to be anyone that's first responders. If you want to come up with the first 1,000, they're going to have hot dogs and brats and hamburgers. You just come up, put in your order. And Brad Somerset's great with the community. If anybody here locally wants to do that and you're a first responder, feel free to come up. It's going to be a really, really good event.
That sounds great.
And go to the Don Carter website for the details.
Definitely. Awesome, Coach. That's great. I'm glad to share that. The one of the things I was going to add in, we had a few people that, like, I put most of them up here, but Troy Johnson, good friend from back home in Omaha, had said hi and missed me, and really, it's this time that really has you think about some of the things that you do and what things you've done. And you and I talk about this quite a bit, how, I mean, with we not doing the same things that we're normally used to doing, it draws you to think about a lot of other things, you know. So I'm glad that I've got lots of projects going on to keep me from thinking about it as much, but I do miss Omaha, and I do miss I miss all of that. I should say some of that. I miss all of the friendships and the bowling and the things that I've had throughout the years with them. So
Right.
we will. I do. Hopefully, if anybody does catch this, we will be making some form of a decision for the trios tournament. I know that I keep delaying that response and that answer. We don't want to cancel it altogether. I think we do want to try and see if it's available to start back in the months to come. I know that Viking. I talked to Viking, and they were still talking about doing the over under. Hopefully, in the next few months or so too. We want to base it around that same time frame, because that's kind of what we did. But if you get this far into this conversation that we just had today and you hear this, please feel free to reach out to me if you really feel like you just don't want to be a part of it anymore. I understand. I have everybody's money still. So if somebody does want a refund, I'll understand. I do believe that we'll be able to contribute and get back into bowling at some point to make it work. And I'm hopeful that would be a way for us to kind of go back into this with, you know, getting away from the COVID-19 thing. So that was a part of my reasoning for kind of stalling out longer, not doing anything crazy wacky with anybody's money. Their money is still available. I can give it back at any point. So if you do want your money back, I can just get a PayPal account. I can send it to you that way, whatever the case may be. But we do plan on trying to reschedule. So I will be talking with Tony more about that. I was going to ask him during the feed, kind of surprise him with the question, but I didn't think that was necessary. So I'm just going to ask him at another time, and then have that answer for everybody. So just want to make sure that was out there as well.
Got it.
But well, I think we've had a pretty good feed today. It's hour and 12 minutes in, and it cracks me up that Tony was asking, well, how are we going to talk for an hour? I'm like, well, it flies by faster than you think.
Once you get going about something you love, like all of the coaching and the high school and college, you can just talk forever. I know I can. Yeah,
for sure, man. All right, well, we are going to be done for the live part of it today, and can't wait to see everybody for the next one. Hopefully, we'll be back again Tuesday. Coach, you've been a little under the weather, so we'll take that by a grain of salt of whether or not we can do a Tuesday one or not. So we'll talk a little more about that.
I'm good.
All right, buddy. Good. Well, we'll talk to everybody a little bit later.